What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Derek, and today we are reviewing the Sony ZV-1 camera, obviously made by Sony. So let's go ahead and roll the intro and dive right in. All right, guys, so as I said, today we're taking a look at the Sony ZV-1. I bought this camera to use as a vlogging camera. In fact, that's what this camera was made and designed for, was to be a compact style vlogging camera that was easy to use, quick to use, and was also very high quality. I've been using the camera for a couple weeks now on my weekly vlogs. If you are looking for my weekly vlogs, they are on a separate YouTube channel, but if you type in OMG, it's Derek Vlogs into YouTube, I'm sure you can find it no problem. So I had been using a GoPro Hero 10 when I restarted my vlogs and started doing them again. I bought a GoPro Hero 10 because I was rocking an older Hero 7, and the 10 had a creator bundle that came out that came with like a selfie stick tripod, like a grip that was also a battery and a bunch of other things. If you didn't see my review of that, you should check it out. It's here on the channel. But it had a bunch of features that I thought made it nice to use as a vlogging camera. The one downside to it was that it doesn't have an optical zoom like a normal, camera does, like the DSLR that I'm shooting on now, at least when I'm using a zoom lens. And so, after a while of shooting with the GoPro, fantastic camera, highly recommended, especially if you're using an older GoPro. But after a while of shooting with it, I really started missing, specifically for B-roll, having the ability to zoom in with the camera. So first, before we jump through my thoughts on it, what I like about it, what I don't like about it, let's talk about specs. I'm not a big specs guy, so I'm just gonna run through like the major specs. There's YouTube channels out there, there's people out there, even websites where you can just go and they literally just read out the specs for you on the YouTube video. Or again, my recommendation would be just to go to a website that has them listed out and read them real quick. But just to cover real quick, it does do 4K resolution. It does that at either 100 megabit bitrate or 60 megabit bitrate. It also does 24 frames per second in 4K if you like to shoot in 24 frames per second. I do a lot of times, unless I'm shooting slow motion, I shoot a lot of my regular talking head vlogs or the normal speed B-roll in 24 FPS because that's how I render it out inside of Premiere and stuff. It also allows you to do 1080p footage, so just normal HD at 120 frames per second, so you can do that nice, really slow, cinematic looking B-roll. Footage similar to what you may see coming from like Peter McKinnon's vlogs or Maddie Hapoya, stuff like that. Again, you can do that at 100 megabits or 60 megabits bit rate. And then of course you can also shoot in like 1080p at 60 FPS, 30 FPS, or 20 FPS. For photos, it shoots at a whopping 20 megapixels, which doesn't sound like a lot, but with better sensors, with the camera like this, it's gonna be a lot better than something like a smartphone that has 20 megapixels or even 50 megapixels for that matter. Even though it was designed to be a vlogging video camera, or at least video style camera, it still does really well at shooting stills. So I was pleasantly surprised at that. It does have a fully articulated LCD screen, meaning it flips out and then you can see it if you're holding the camera like this, filming yourself, you can see yourself. It also rotates back, different angles or whatever. So if you're shooting low, you can have it tilted up like this or whatever. So very nice to finally see that coming from Sony, and especially in a compact camera, because a lot of compact cameras you see don't end up having a flip out LCD screen. They have like a tilt LCD screen that either just tilts up and down. So I like the fact that it's a full flip out articulating LCD screen. 921,000 pixels, so it's a good screen. So the sensor size in this camera is a 1-inch CMOS sensor. I wish it was a little bit larger of a sensor. I mean, 1 inch is not, obviously that large, but for the size of this camera, the weight of this camera, everything, the sensor, it performs really well. I have no problem using this camera in the dark, using it in the daytime, all of that stuff. In terms of the zoom, it does have a 24 millimeter at its widest angle, up to a 70 millimeter zoom at its largest angle. The biggest problem I have with the zoom is it's not quite what I want. The G7X Mark II, when I had that, it was 24 millimeter at the wide angle lens, but it was 100 millimeters at the long end. And that little bit of extra 30 millimeters at the long end was really nice. Again, the issue with the Canons is the autofocus. So at the end of the day, if I had to choose out of having autofocus that I know is gonna work and do really well versus that extra zoom, optical zoom, I'm gonna choose the better autofocus. The other thing is, and this is for both cameras, but the 24 millimeter, in my opinion, especially when these cameras are advertised as being vlogging cameras, really is not that wide of an angle. I would have loved to see like 16, 18 millimeter. I feel like that's like the minimum. When you're holding the camera and vlogging, you don't want the whole, the whole frame to be filled with your head. Maybe sometimes you want that shot, but overall it's nice being able while you're vlogging to, show things in the background and point things out, et cetera, et cetera. If you're at the Grand Canyon and you're like, oh, look guys, I'm at the Grand Canyon. You don't want people only seeing your head and being like, are you lying, dude? You standing in your basement? Like what the? I will say, one of the big reasons I decided the autofocus was more important is because unlike the Canons, it has the adapter thread so that you can attach different lenses or things to it. There is a company that makes a wide angle lens that you can buy on Amazon that's really popular for this camera. It has good ratings, and it basically goes on here and turns it from 24 millimeter, I think, into like 16 millimeter. And then if you pair that with some kind of like a mini tripod that you can then hold it out a little bit more, maybe have it tilted in, then I think that makes this camera perfect. The downside is that you got to add another piece to the camera, another lens that goes over top of this one. The nice thing about it is I do have, as I was saying, the GoPro Hero 10. So with the GoPro Hero 10, if I want really wide angle, I just use that. And then if I want something a little closer or I want to shoot B-roll where I want to zoom in, I have this. So I don't know if I'll end up buying it or not. Because one of the biggest complaints is I guess the lens is actually, it's actually really high quality, made out of like full metal and stuff. But a lot of people say they actually wish, like the Sony camera, it was a plastic body. That way it was much lighter. The other nice thing about the Sony ZV-1, there actually is a hot shoe mount for accessories, and it comes with this windscreen, and the stereo mic on this is phenomenal. And when you pair it with the windscreen so that you're not getting wind noise, the audio coming out of this camera is fantastic.
I want one.
And if you do want something more professional, unlike the Mark II, it does have a microphone jack in it. The Mark III, I believe, has a, well, not I believe, I know it does. It also has a mic jack input, but on those cameras, to get the windscreen, what I had to do was buy little stick-on windscreens off of Amazon that would basically just stick over the little hole, the mic hole on those cameras. And to be honest, like it worked. Like if you have one of those, I would definitely recommend getting some of those because it does help, but it doesn't stop all the wind noise. This works fantastic. The way they designed it, I mean, it's just like the right amount of fluffiness. It does a great job at cutting out wind noise. So excellent there. Screen size is a 3-inch LCD screen. It's not touchscreen. My Mark II was, the Mark III is, my EOS is, my GoPro is. They're all touchscreens. This is not.
Why? Why?
I don't know why. It's one of the things I hate about it. The other thing I hate is that if you're wearing polarized sunglasses, this is one of those screens that you just cannot see with the glasses on. Most cameras I do, my phone, my EOS 80D, the GoPro, if I have polarized sunglasses on, I can still see this screen. And also, I know this is talked about a lot on YouTube from a lot of creators, but with this being my first Sony camera in a while and using mainly Canon, I will say that I have to agree with other YouTubers and stuff that the menu system for Canon is atrocious. Obviously, if you know what you're doing, you're gonna be able to find the settings. Some of them might just be called something a little different, or they might be buried a little deeper in subsections of it. But nonetheless, like, you can pretty much figure out what you need to do, but still, it's just horrible the way it's set up. Whoever designed that should immediately be fired and they should rehire somebody else. That's how bad it is, in my opinion. I'm sorry, I just don't know what else to say. And couple that on top of the fact that this isn't a touchscreen and you actually have to use the little wheel and go over 20 menus to get to a setting that you want and then scroll down 5 menus. It's so stupid, man. But outside of that, the screen works well. It's bright even in bright sunlight as long as you're not wearing sunglasses. The resolution is fine, as I said, no issues there. I like the full articulating screen. The 3 inches, it's nice, it's large enough, no complaints there. The other nice thing about this camera versus something like the GoPro Hero 10 that I say I use for vlogging is that you can get the blurred background, or what we call bokeh effect, with this camera because it has a minimum aperture of 1.8, which is great for low light. It's great for bokeh background. The cool thing is on this camera, they have a button that you can press that'll either A, make your background nice and clear, or B, it'll give it that out of focus bokeh effect. It's nice that it has that nice low fast lens. It's gonna perform well in low light, especially with it being a 1-inch sensor. Having that low aperture is gonna help it out quite a bit. So no complaints there. It has a max shutter speed of 1/2000th of a second, which is, you know, fast. And the ISO goes from 125 all the way up to 12,800. Although at that, you know, ISO 12,800, it's probably going to be pretty noisy, admittedly, especially with a 1-inch sensor. But nonetheless, you know, you can do it if you're kind of in the situation where you really need to crank it up. And, you know, sometimes it's better for it to be noisy and at least you can see stuff in the dark versus not. Plus, I will say the technology, like especially on the digital front, so the digital noise reduction, both built into the camera as well as what you can do in post-processing, has come a long way. And you'd be surprised at how well the footage will still look, even if you have to shoot once in a while at that 12,800 ISO. It doesn't have GPS built into it or anything, which is fine for me. I don't really care. I don't really ever use GPS. When I make my folders, I label where these shots were from, or most of the time I just remember. I've never had an issue remembering where I took a photo or labeling in a way that allows me to remember that. Also, the SD card is a normal size SD card. It is not a micro SD card. And also, to shoot at the 4K 100 megabit per second rate, you actually are going to need a Pro SD card from like SanDisk or something that has the really high write speeds and stuff. I had the SanDisk Ultra and I could not shoot at the 100 megabits per second because the card was not fast enough. And the Ultra is just one step down from the Pro. It's still a very fast card. Just like for reference, I've been using the Ultras in my DJI Air 2S drone that shoots at a very high bit rate and a very high, you know, quality. My GoPro has the Ultra in it, my EOS 80D, which granted it only does 1080p, but nonetheless, you know, first camera where I've ever actually had that problem where I had to buy a Pro, you know, the Pro level SanDisk SD cards in order to use the highest quality settings. So not a big deal, just something to be aware of. And basically that's all of the specs that I want to touch on. I love this camera. I love the windscreen. The mic sounds fantastic. It's amazing. I love the clear and defocus button that is built right onto the top of the camera in case you want to blur the background or unblur it. I love having the zoom again for vlogging and stuff. I do think this is probably about the perfect vlogging camera you can currently get on the market. Again, the only downside that I really have with this camera in terms of like using it as a vlogging camera is that, you know, 24 millimeter wide angle. I wish it went down a little lower. It's cool that you can buy the thing that goes over it. They at least make it so you can still adapt things onto the camera, even though it is a compact camera, and that you can, you know, add something like that on and turn what is essentially a 24 millimeter into 16 millimeter. If you're vlogging and you want to go with a compact camera, number one, if you don't care about the zoom, the GoPro Hero 10, the creator bundle, again, I've done a review of that. Fantastic. I think it makes a great vlogging camera now with that whole setup. But if you want something a little more professional and you want to spend a little bit more money, I definitely think this is the best compact style camera you can get for vlogging that is currently out. Again, I don't like that with polarized sunglasses, I can't see the screen. The screen's not touchscreen, which bothers me. Also, there is no charging indicator on this. You can charge it just using a USB cable. I believe this is micro USB. It's not USB-C, which also sucks. It doesn't come with a normal charger to like actually pop out the battery and put it in there. You can buy a charger for these batteries, obviously, but it just does not come with one in the box. And then also, one other thing that I didn't mention that I do like is, unlike the Canon Mark II and Mark III of the G7X series. It does have a recording light, a light that turns red when you're recording to let you know that you're recording, which sounds super stupid and simple, but it's actually a really nice feature. Again, I also do not like the menu system of Sony. I concur with everybody else that and complains about it. I dread having to go into the menu system of this thing. I'm sure as I use it more, I'm gonna get used to it, and at some point it's probably not gonna be that big of a deal. But the way that the menu system is designed, on top of this not being a touchscreen, I just find it extremely frustrating. And I've been using this camera well over a month now on a daily basis. The time lapses that come out of this look great. The photos look great. The videos look superb. I mean, that's exactly what it's designed for. No complaints on that front. Has HDMI out, can be used as a webcam if you're a streamer or anything. I have a Canon M200 that I use that has swappable lenses and stuff. That way I can have a nice fixed fast lens on it that gives me a good look. But with that said, I think that's it. I mean, I love the camera. I definitely think it's worth it. I would definitely recommend checking it out if you're looking for a vlogging camera. And again, I am a Canon fanboy. I have used Canon for years. My main setups and stuff are Canon. This is the first Sony camera I've used in ages, but I just think it performs way better than the G7X series, both the Mark II and Mark III. And at the end of the day, I want the equipment that's gonna perform the best for what I need versus, you know, buying something just because I like a particular brand. So with that said, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you like this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up button down below. It helps me out tremendously. Also, if you have any questions, leave a comment down below and let me know. I'll be happy to answer any of them. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, get subscribed to the channel. And for those of you that don't know, just a quick reminder, we did separate all of the YouTube channels. I used to do gaming, tech, and vlogs all on this channel. This channel is now exclusively a tech channel. So if you want to find the vlogs or gaming content, there is a separate channel for each of those. If you just search for OMG It's Derek Vlogs or OMG It's Derek Gaming, I'm sure you'll find the channels, no problem. Love your faces. Thank you for the love and support. I appreciate it. I'll see you guys on the next one. Till then, peace out everybody. Later, nerds.